Welcome to the MBD podcast, the show where we dig into what's actually working when it comes to scaling businesses and people who've been there. Today's guest, I'm going to let her introduce herself and her company, so feel free to take it away.
My name is Grace Schroeder. I'm the founder and CEO of Slinger. We're a low-code solutions company. Our approach is to look at a business problem and define the best tools to integrate to bring to the table. Lately, that has included the best-of-breed applications, software as a service applications, and all of the various flavors of artificial intelligence that might assist us um, in creating a solution that is designed for a specific client.
Nice. So, what are the things you're seeing, like with this big, it's a revolutionary shift into AI? Where are you seeing business owners, whether it's the owner of the business or people own a certain silo of the business, where are you seeing them get stuck with this new technology or this new logic that's coming out? And how can they get past in order to scale their business and create efficiencies?
I think by and large, there's massive information overload, and our brains, we're operating with brains that are designed 50,000 years ago. They haven't really changed much when we're eating berries in a cave. And then today we're getting bombarded with this new technology that nobody quite understands, and the emails that you get, the marketing that you get, every day you turn on the television and you see new stories about it is bamboozling people.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at their own business, it's kind of tough to decide where to start. And there's security concerns, and I have all this other stuff going on concerns. So the big question becomes, where do I start? Who do I trust?
Mm-hmm.
And we're here to say you have to trust somebody, because it is a full-time job, and it will always be a full-time job to make sure that you understand the universe of what's out there and what's in the land of the possible so that you can compete. The other important thing is exposing the humans in the companies to AI agents and automation, how it can help them, because the the worker of the future, the successful worker of the future, is going to be very good at defining where an agent can help, helping to design the newest workflow, helping to refine over time as things change to make sure that the agent is on a path of continuous improvement, and they have to get comfortable with it. And in that way, you're going to see job loss. That's 100% certain. But you're also going to see some new opportunities for some new types of roles. And I think that's where the big promise is. I mean, when the loom came out, everybody freaked out. When every piece of
Yep.
technology comes out, everybody freaks out about job loss, and it's really never happened in a way that wasn't somehow replaced by some other, service or some other, economic need that evolved in the market.
Is so yeah, and what you're saying is that there'll be new opportunities, just like with the Industrial Revolution, people need to retrain. There'll be a loss of certain types of positions, in a sense, as this piece of technology helps, do that portion. So essentially, your position, like how you help these people who are confused in times like right now, essentially you come in as a mentor and say, hey, give us your problems, and then I'm going to help you find these solutions. I'm here to help you find the solutions, provide those solutions, execute those solutions. So that way you don't have to worry about trying to guess all the, how many different AI tools now are there? Like
It changes. I mean,
daily?
look, you see the same thing I
It's
do.
daily, yeah.
You've got the AI LLMs, the
Hmm.
LLMs, and large language models, and
Yep.
I look at those as the utility companies.
Hmm.
And they're the only ones that can afford to be an LLM, because they have to buy big infrastructure and big compute power, and that's not going to change. Then you have these sort of peripherals that have come up, and some of them have been slaughtered, because what happens is the LLM does another release and it tends to eat into
Hmm.
some of these things that this auxiliary tooling came up to
Yeah.
solve. So you have, RAG, you have vector, and little by little, the LLMs are coming out with multimodal document ingestion. There was
Yeah.
a whole swath of tools out there. That's all they did. And guess what? Now they baked
Gone.
it into the LLM. So this is why it causes fear, because
Yeah.
everybody's seeing this change. They're like, well, it's just going to be out of date tomorrow. Well, if you build what you're trying to do properly, you build it in a way that lets you infuse the newer features that come out without a huge rewrite. And that's why we're so centered around low code application development.
Hmm.
It just makes more sense because we can move fast enough to keep up with the changes, and that those changes are not going away. You're not ever going to have a point where the software is done and it's
Hmm.
all configuration options. That those days are behind us.
Yeah.
In large part, I think the product days are largely behind us
Mm.
because it no longer makes sense to create a massive application with all the configuration options that anybody on the planet needs, but maybe it doesn't get to that last mile of functionality because it's solved, it tried to be everything to everyone. In the future, you'll be able to create these bespoke applications almost, almost on demand.
Yeah. Hey, I need an email campaign to get new clients, or I need a win back campaign. Can you create that for me based on what you see success is? And it's going to go into everything that the team
That's
used to do.
and we don't know when that's going to happen. We
Yeah.
try. I'm sure everybody saw the Builder.ai debacle. We try just about every tool out there that tells everyone, hey, we can build an app just by prompts.
Yeah.
They don't work yet. Builder.ai did not work. And that's where we try to keep on top of where is it really, and that's where we're introducing AI into our workflows and into our platform, but we're doing the more things we know that we're certain of. We
Hmm.
know the platform needs a natural language interface. We know that.
Yep. Needs a
No,
brain.
yeah, we know that the low code development needs to accept uh, codes,
Inputs,
snippets that are inputs from that are written
parsed.
by AI.
Yeah.
So we know these things, and that's where we're sticking to the known in terms of what we're doing in technology, and then relying on the
Everyone
peripheral,
else. Yeah.
yeah, to do what needs to be done to solve a problem.
So let's do it exactly. So you say you have a company. I'll let you define the company, and then you guys would help them. Like, what would be that problem? So first start with the what's the problem that they're facing? Where are they failing at? And then they need help. They don't know exactly how to fix it, maybe, or they have an idea that they need. There's options out there. So why don't you lay that and position that out as, hey, here's a this type of company in this type of industry, and they have this problem, and then we would do this to help solve that problem.
So, but I think I have a brief history in telecom. I lasted 4 years before I pulled the ripcord, and one of the processes is getting quotes. So,
Mm-hmm.
say you're a large company and you need 100 circuits. Typically, you're gonna get a spreadsheet from somebody that's
Yep.
gonna give it to you in network planning, and then in procurement, you're gonna go out and figure out the emails of each, preferred provider, and then you're gonna attach a copy of that spreadsheet and send it out and then you're going to wait for them to reply, and then maybe they reply, maybe they don't, so then you're going to get a couple of 2 out of 5 maybe within a week and a half, and then you're going to go, I got to get to the last 3 so that I can create this side-by-side comparison and hand it off to the network
Mm-hmm.
planning people. And that's all done via email. And the reason for that is at the high end in telecom, there's really not a last and best final pricing database that you can hit an API with
Mm-hmm.
to get the information you
Yeah.
need. So with AI now, you can just meet people where they are. It's okay if you need to do it in email because there is no API. That's great. And if we can auto generate stupid things like, hey, I didn't get your reply yet, and then an alert that says I got everybody's reply, and then a review process where you can say, here it is, send it off. Now you've saved somebody a lot of cutting and pasting, a lot of searching their emails for who replied, who didn't, and they can still pretty much operate the same way they do today.
Busy
So,
work. Yeah.
You're not
That, hey,
asking
did you
them to
respond?
re.
Task reminder. Up, send this out on this date. Up, I
Yeah.
missed that date. Up, I got this. Yeah. No, nice. Um, no, yeah, that's great. Communication efficiency. That's huge. And then also you're pulling in documents, creating reports and charts, and then sending that off to the end user who's the owner. What That's interesting. So now within your business, where is the direction? Like, what were things that you learned in the beginning that you were able to overcome, that you wish you knew sooner
Well, that's a
or
really
figured
good
out sooner?
question. Well, I mean, like, where do you want to start?
That,
The first place to start is building a low code platform is really hard to do.
oh,
And
I
you see
bet.
a lot
Yeah.
of them now. When we came out in 2011, there were none. There was
Hmm.
no word called low code. It was, Grace, what are you doing? Well, sit down. There's no elevator pitch for this. So we tighten things down from an automation perspective a little too much
Mm.
because we have 100 developers. So we're like, well, let's just automate everything. That isn't smart either, you know. So you have to sort of pick what you decide to automate and what you don't. You don't want to automate adding people to a Slack channel and then automate kicking them out when they're not in the right record in your HQ tool. You want, and then you're like, why am I getting kicked out? You want to avoid things that create
Yeah.
magic. So I think part of the whole thinking is, what's known and relatively stable, and that's what you want to start on and get usage of before you start doing the fancy edge,
Hmm.
total last, not last mile, but last, foot automation. So that's one thing we learned. The second thing was, you know, I didn't conceive of a go to market, and
Mm.
this is in the category of strategic decisions. Uh, when we created this, I saw the business need because I had worked in large companies and small, and my one of my last roles was part of it was running a spreadsheet department with 43 people in it. Uh,
Fun.
so I saw, you know what, there has to be a way to create custom automation faster. How hard could it be? Well, really hard. And then I didn't consider the go to market of it.
Hmm.
So what we were building really was something that was enterprise ready. And it was, in order to really distribute it that way, you really have to have an expensive enterprise sales organization. So I didn't really match the girth of what we were building with the resources we
Mm-hmm.
had to sort of take it to market, and
Yeah.
that has been a struggle. The third, mistake, but I still bounce back and forth, is we didn't settle in on a vertical. We settled in on a general purpose platform, which we actually fundamentally believe is better because underneath it all, data is data, workflow is workflow, integrations are integrations. However, from a marketing perspective, it's really hard to go out with the "we'll do anything for money" marketing campaign. It's like, so we have a focus on laboratory information management systems, if you can believe it.
Mm.
And that's a place where we found they don't have APIs out of the box. So they're usually not great technology. They're not, interoperable. They don't have great flexibility in what you can show the patient and the physician and the lab. So we have made inroads there. And it's a lot easier to talk to people when you know the nomenclature, you
Yeah.
know the humans that you need to hit. And then on the developer side, we have a fairly large core team of developers that know all the language. What's an assay? What's
Hmm.
a method? And that has been helpful.
Yeah, it's just what you're saying is like, and this is something I learned in business school, is they'd say, you have the widget maker. He made the best widget in the world, but nobody knows about it because he doesn't know how to tell anybody. And he
Yes.
also he doesn't speak their language. Like, you go and engineers speak engineer, right? Which isn't something normal people understand. And when they try and communicate that, we have this best, here's my engineer language product. Everybody's like, that sounds cool, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So like, yeah, right? Communication comes back to communication. One of the big things is, how you describe your product in terms that people understand. Now, you found that laboratories were working. Now, did you do any A/B testing to find different industries to see what was working?
So we did, we run a lot of experiments, and
Hmm.
we have noticed too that the email, since the LLMs came online, everybody's getting 50 times as many emails as they used to because they're so dang easy to write now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that it's been a more crowded space and tough to get used to. So what we sort of use email, our first launch into something is to test messaging and open
Hmm.
rates, because that's going to tell us what messaging seems to be appealing. We are not really even that focused on converting from email as
Hmm.
much as we used to be, because it's still trying to understand in which segments, how do you talk to people, and what's hitting them from the A. Everybody's got their own AI thing. I'm a doctor. I don't want to give a patient a bad diagnosis because I'm using diagnostic AI.
Yeah.
And so that's where the use of the marketing tools is getting more interesting, actually. And
Hmm.
then we also are trying to spend some time, stop shooting arrows long enough to talk to the machine gun salesman, because these AI tools are machine guns, right?
Oh yeah.
But you have to spend time figuring out what
You got
is
to get
your.
the right ammo.
You got to get the right ammo. You got to stitch together the right flows, and
Hmm.
we see a lot of marketing, AI marketing platform. And
Yeah.
then, no, 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 no. We're like, which piece can we try for identifying email address? Which piece can we use for various topical things versus trying to find one platform to do it all? But we're a technology company,
Yeah.
so we can do that, and
That's
then
cool.
once we burn in a process that seems to work, and we typically try things, and then 30 days later we're like, there's something better out there, and you
Hmm.
kind of have to do that.
Yeah.
But I want to go
It's.
back to something you said earlier about the
Mhm.
communication side and about developers. This is the other very important thing shift that's going to happen is developers are going to have to get better at domains, business domains. They have to become more communicative. It's the job. It's part of the job now, and some of them hate it.
Oh
They're
yeah.
like,
I bet most of them hate.
yeah, yeah, it's stressful because we have a staff augmentation practice and a solutions practice, and sometimes we bring people over from staff augmentation into the solutions teams, and
Mm,
they don't want to talk to the clients.
yeah.
I don't blame them,
I don't either.
but it's part of the job, because
Yeah.
those those code only jobs are the most in jeopardy in the next, 1 to 5 years. We're going to see some very dramatic shifts there that we desperately try to prepare people for.
Hmm. Yeah. It's gonna go fast. It's gonna go real fast. I don't think people realize, or some people don't know how fast it's coming. And I think of it this way: you take like I use a car as an example. You have self-driving cars, and what they do is within milliseconds, they're able to identify something going on, run thousands of scenarios, right, of what the outcome could be, and then apply it right away. And that could be
Yep.
just to go around something.
Yep.
Like it can learn that fast. It can learn so fast. It's crazy. It's interesting. It's funny because being on the forefront of this changes, like creates a lot of opportunity. So now in what you've got going. So now you've got your solution, you've identified a niche, you're multivariate testing, you're using different tools, marketing tools right now. They're almost a dime a dozen. And the way that these platforms are doing it, which I love, is that you don't need to sign up for $100 a month, $200 a month. You just say, hey, for every token that we call, we're going to pay a fraction of a penny or a penny for it. And then it runs. You're like, okay, I ran a test. We ran a couple hundred. We spent a few dollars,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then this is what works, this is what didn't work. These are changes we're going to make. Let's run another test. There's another few dollars. So you actually, I feel like at any point we're getting more of our money's worth if you understand how to use these tools, like in what you're providing as solutions, right?
Yeah.
Um, so now you
Most people
identify,
have a day job. They can't just like, hey, I'm going to do this in my free time for 2 hours a day.
right? I know. Um, you get there. Now you're identifying this. Now, what channels are you essentially using? You got email. Are you doing any automation through paid media? What other avenues are you trying to take, whether it be more of a manual approach or automated approach through leveraging the AI technology?
I would say semi-automatic. And so
Hmm.
pre-AI, we've done a ton of experiment with LinkedIn advertising, and we got a ton of leads. zero people show up for a phone call.
Really?
Zero.
Wow.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. And we did a lot of different, we did labs testing, lawyers, all sorts of things, but this was all pre AI. So we sort of backed off the paid. Lately, what we've done is use high volume email, right, out of MailChimp
Hmm.
to different audiences to try to narrow down based on open rates. And then once we get engaged people, we hand it to an outbound SDR
Yep.
to drive the close to an appointment.
Hmm.
And so, optimizing them to by giving them the most engaged people improves the number of appointments they can book in a month. And then we also use RB2B, which is another tool. There are others like it that purport to tell you who's visiting your website. So then after we send out a whole slew of emails, we can sort of see who's coming to our website. Obviously, we use Google Analytics to see where we're having an effect
Yeah.
in volume. But we're doing each of these sort of siloed right now. We haven't tied any of it together, which we have in the past, because we haven't really landed on the wheel of fun
Hmm.
that is repeatable enough to go for more than 30, 60 days, because
Wow.
it changes so fast. Like it's working and then it's not.
Yeah, and it's getting faster because it used to be you'd have 6 months to a year of a certain type of outreach working, and now it's like you've got, oh, this is working this month. Everyone figures out, let's figure out something else for next month. Um, but it's there, there could be ways in identifying a niche, like if you have a niche and just working that as opportunity, doing your omni-channel marketing strategies that may have a higher benefit. And then it's interesting you say that people aren't showing up for your LinkedIn meetings, and it makes me wonder what was the hook. I mean, it's weird that they would book and no one would show up. Um,
A lot of
may
them didn't book. And so the
uh,
way LinkedIn works too is it works better if you land them on the LinkedIn, lead gen page, and there's not a lot of information there. Right? So it's nicer to bounce them to a formal landing page, but those don't convert even to leads as much
right.
as so it's everything's a trade. I don't I think it's going to be exhausting to stay on top. It already is. My team is exhausted. They're
Yeah.
like, we gotta land somewhere. We're like, well, you know, so does everybody wants to do that. I don't see where. Like, I don't see the place to land yet. I mean, we have some hypotheses,
Yeah.
and we will keep at it until we find it, but it's not obvious.
Got to dig through this. You got to sift through it all. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time. If someone's listening right now who's trying to scale, what's one piece of advice you wish you had earlier?
You know, I didn't have it earlier, but I should have started earlier. Is go to Coursera. I mean, for free, you can audit those courses, and there are
Hmm.
all sorts of courses on around AI, around prompting, whatever you're curious about.
Yeah.
Invest the time.
Yeah.
There is no escape.
It's
You must
coming.
invest the time.
Or it's here. It's not coming. It's here.
It's here,
Yeah.
and it's less. You get less fearful the more you know, because and then it's like, well, okay, I
Yeah.
see how that works, and
Yeah.
and then you gain some footing to make some decisions.
Awesome. And where can people connect with you or learn more about what you're doing?
So slinger.io, SLINGR.io is our website, and I am Grace at slinger.io.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time.
Appreciate it.
All right.